Disney Channel's Poor Portrayal of Gender by Abigail Brady. Disney Channel, one of the most popular channels and companies targeted towards younger audiences, happens to be the same company that chooses to release movies that choose to portray gender roles in such unsettling ways. Why is this issue important? It's important for us as a society to be aware and conscious of how, over the decades, Disney Channel has managed to portray gender in a way that leads us to believe that women are constantly viewed as being damaged, hurt, and lonely individuals. We see in these movies that in order to take away that pain and suffering, that these women need a man to save them and provide them with the happily ever after. We also have seen movies where they show us how men are viewed to be less masculine for having different interests than their friends do. If you're a man and you're not interested in sports, you're likely to have your masculinity critiqued or questioned, when in reality that should not be the case. It's important for us to address and to talk about how not everything is the reality that we are seeing in the movies. In real life, women do not need a man to be the reason for their happy ending. And men are not less masculine for having different interests than their friends. Here we have 3 films where women are portrayed to be weaker than men due to the fact that they are not capable of doing the same aspects of life that they are. Mulan, Rapunzel, and Frozen are all films that portray women to be weaker than men and make it seem as though they need a man in order to survive, whether this be romantically or in order to protect them. Each movie is a similar story with a different plot. With that being the narrative that we are focusing on, the reality is that Mulan is a female warrior who was told she couldn't go to war due to the fact that she was a female. She was told she wasn't strong enough. But Mulan wouldn't take that or accept that answer. In order to protect her father, who would be going to war due to the fact that he is the only man in the household, Mulan went to measures like no other and chose to disguise herself as a man in battle. She did this as a way to prove how strong and tough she is when she went and saved all of China. This movie is a perfect example of a woman being told that she's weak and incapable of doing something due to the fact that she's a woman, and that the challenging and dangerous aspects of life are the ones in which only men must handle. But in reality, Mulan is an example of breaking that stereotype. We have Rapunzel, who is an example of the basic Disney princess who was unaware of how weak and powerless she was until the day she met Flynn, her prince, who had unknowingly rescued her from the miserable and fake life that she was living for so many years. While looking for her freedom, she never had the heart to do it until she met Flynn, who helped her escape and pushed her to be the best she could. He helped her find the happy ending that she was looking for, and without him, she would still be locked away in that tower. And then we have Frozen. As we know, the basic Disney storyline states that in order to live happily and survive, you must find your true love. Frozen wants us to believe that this is a movie where we will see the stereotypical Disney plotline, but this is a movie that shows the bond between 2 sisters and how the love that they share means more than any man could provide to either of them. I found this to be an extremely important plot because I feel as though this is a movie where at the start of the film, we see how the women are portrayed to be weak and depend on the men to save them. But in reality, this movie showed that 2 sisters were able to overcome the obstacles that they were facing without the help of a man in order to save them from their challenges. They were able, the 2 sisters, to get through the obstacles they were facing without having to deal with the concept of finding true love. Then we have found Disney movies that question masculinity. Here I have High School Musical star Troy Bolton. This is a different way in which Disney has chosen to portray gender. Troy, having a different interest than his friends, such as the school musical, had his masculinity questioned by many. People felt as though Troy can't be in the musical. He's the star basketball player. They didn't think that this is somewhere he belonged. The only place that he belonged was on the basketball court. When In reality, with this mindset that people were having about Troy, this caused him to lie to the people that he loved the most due to the fact that they were offending him and how he felt. When Troy's father, the head basketball coach, finds the news out about Troy being in the play, he says, "You're the playmaker, not a singer, right?" To which Troy responds, "Did you ever think that maybe I could be both?" People were trying to force Troy to become one or the other. Nobody was allowing him to have both basketball and the musical. He had to pick. His friends had the mindset that he is not tough due to the decision to be in the musical. His friends critiqued him for this choice of his. I think that this is an important matter to talk about because a lot of the Disney movies that we see don't necessarily discuss men and their masculinity. And this is an example of somebody who had a different interest than other people, and he was questioned for his masculinity. Key points are that I know that personally I am somebody who grew up watching these Disney Channel movies, and with that in mind, I know I'm not the only child who grew up watching these movies. We are aware that Disney's main target audience is a younger audience, so I feel as though the more that children seem to be seeing the same recurring theme in a movie, they will soon start to question if these narratives are true. More often than not, we are seeing in the movies a damsel in distress who is told she needs a man in order to save her and to provide her the fairy tale ending she deserves, when in reality, that is not the case. We see in High School Musical, Troy get his masculinity questioned by peers for expressing his interest in plays, when in reality, he shouldn't have his masculinity questioned. Why is it that we are always seeing a portrayal of gender that allows us to see either gender being treated poorly? Why is there always someone somewhere where there has to be an issue? I feel as though this issue is both degrading and unjust due to the way that Disney Channel is shaping the minds of children into believing that women are worthless without a man. A quote that I found while doing research is, "Gender roles are prominent throughout the history of animated Disney films. Disney has always displayed both men and women in stereotypical body forms. The female is devised with the perfect hourglass figure, small waist and large eyes, in comparison to the male with their perfectly sculpted masculine physique. Along with the portrayal of weakness, the women in these movies are projected to be beautiful, while the men are projected to be handsome, muscular, and masculine." I feel as though the reason that this quote is so important and relevant is due to the fact that it is the truth as to how Disney Channel portrays these characters. When it comes to the aspect of looks, I feel as though making it so these characters look like the perfect individual allows for girls and boys to see unrealistic expectations of both body and facial looks. We already are seeing a lot of this in the media, which allows for children to feel the need to look a certain specific way, which I think stems from further issues. When you are seeing such perfect examples of people at such a young age, you begin to have these mindsets of, oh, that's how I want to look, that's how I need to look, when in reality, everybody is different. History has changed and impacted the way in which Disney has chosen to portray gender roles throughout the course of the decades. We see that in 1938, Snow White was the first Disney princess movie to be released and Saved by a Prince. Followed by that release, feminism in America was something that became more prominent as a serious topic, where we saw more movements occurring, which led for the content that we were seeing in the movies to be changing. In 1989, The Little Mermaid was released, where we saw the rebellious princess with different mannerisms than what we were familiar with. In 1991, Beauty and the Beast was released and received judgment for claims of abuse towards women. This is a time where second-wave feminism had become very prominent, so it was interesting to see this matter occurring. In the years of 2009 and 2012, Disney had released 3 movies that were about princesses finding freedom: The Princess and the Frog, Rapunzel, and Brave. Although this is true, Rapunzel did not know until meeting Flint that she had been living a life of a lie. She did not know that she was being restricted from freedom. In Brave, she did not have a male who was portrayed to save her. The main character was solely the main character. In 2013, Frozen was released, which allowed for us to see two sisters whose love mattered more than any other man did. The bond that these sisters shared showed how it was important for family to love one another as opposed to finding the perfect man. These four movies are examples that show us how current Disney has changed with the times, and we are beginning to see more important changes occurring. What we learn from these films is that not everything that we see in the movies is the same reality that we are living. Women do not need to constantly be saved by a knight in shining armor. Obtaining different interests than your friends does not make you any less masculine. Disney should continue to work towards changing the narratives of how they choose to portray women and men in their films. Disney movies impact the minds of the youth to grow up with what they see in the media, and I think that this is important for them to continue to work towards changing the narratives that they have in their films and continue to allow us to see different themes. And here I have some references that I used. Thank you.